everybody. We are coming to you live from the New York City office of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Welcome to our Survivor Day Live program. I'm Shannon Donnick. I am Loss and Healing's Programs Manager for AFSP. And we're here today for International Survivors of Suicide Loss Day, Survivor Day for short. Today is a day when it's dedicated to those who have lost a loved one to suicide to come together in our communities to try to find the comfort and support and strength in knowing that they're not alone. They'll come together to share stories, to support each other and to be supported, and to really find hope and healing. Today, people who've lost a loved one to suicide are gathered at over 350 events all over the world. We have events happening in Indonesia, Argentina, Taiwan, all over the United States. So today, more than any day, we're really reminded that suicide loss is truly a global experience. It doesn't affect just one person or one family or even just one country. And we're also reminded that for each person that we lose to suicide, dozens of other people are affected. We are hosting this online Survivor Day event for the benefit of anyone who isn't able to make it to an event in their community, whether it's because the event was just too far away and you weren't able to travel, or it just didn't work out with your schedule, or maybe you're just not feeling ready to go to an event. And that's fine. We welcome all of you to join us here. We hope that this Survivor Day program will be able to bring you some sort of comfort and promise of healing moving forward. So here's what we have planned for you. In a few minutes, we will stream our brand new Survivor Day documentary, which is called Life Journeys, Reclaiming Life After Loss. It features real people who have lost a loved one to suicide at least 10 years ago. And so what they do is in the film, they reflect back on those early days when they first lost their loved one and kind of remembering what they were thinking about and feeling then. And then they bring us through up till now where they've actually found a measure of peace and have learned, as someone actually mentions in the film, to really incorporate their grief journey into their life journey. The film was produced by AFSP along with Jeff Gersh from Narrative Lab in Portland, Oregon, and it's about 30 minutes. After the film, we'll have a conversation about the suicide loss experience with the three people that you see joining us here on your screen. Clarena, who's also a participant in the film, Dion, and Alex as well. So all three of them lost someone close to them, and after the film, we'll be here to share stories and thoughts with all of us here. Our conversation will last about 45 minutes, and so during that time, you, the viewer, will be able to ask me as well as our panelists any questions in real time, and we'll all do our best to address that. So now I'm actually just going to ask my colleague Hannah Mook to come on over to join us just to explain the actual technical process of watching the film on your screen.
Hey folks, so if you are watching from afsp.org, that's our homepage, right under it you'll see a line that's, right under the film you'll see a line that says, click here to watch this year's Survivor Day documentary. And you can click that and go watch the film. If you are watching us from YouTube, you will see the link to the film in the description. So it'll be a Vimeo link. It'll say to watch this year's documentary. When prompted, go here. And this is your time to go there. Send us a tweet if you are having any trouble. I can always tweet you the link. But basically, go ahead and watch the film now. We're going to go dark. And then, so you can watch the film with a number of subtitles with various languages, and feel free to use whichever one you need, but it is a film in English. Anything else?
I think that's it. So watch the film, and then we'll be right back here to talk about it afterwards.
We're going to go dark now. See you in a few minutes.
Is anyone able to hear me? Is anyone able to hear me?
Hey everyone, we'll be coming back shortly. All right, well, welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a chance to watch the film, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't get a chance to watch the film, you can watch it again after our discussion here. But for anyone who's just joining us right now, I'm Shannon Donnick. I am a manager with the Loss and Healing program here at American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. We are here for Survivor Day Live. We're going to have a conversation to talk about what it means to lose someone to suicide, how we can find ways to move forward in our healing, and just continue to move on in this journey after such a devastating loss. I myself am also a loss survivor. I lost my grandma when I was 13, so this work is also personally important to me, and I'm just really happy to be here on such an important day. And so now I just wanted to take a few minutes to meet the people who've joined us here as our panelist discussion, and we'll be having a full conversation, a little bit about the film, but also just to hear about their own experiences with suicide loss. So we'll start over with Dion Monsanto, who's joining us from a Survivor Day event here in New York City, actually, over at the New School. Dion, if you want to take a few minutes to introduce yourself and share a little bit of your story.
Okay. Hello. The movie was great. My name is Dion, as she said. I live in New York City, and I lost my daughter when she was 15 years old, and that was 5 years ago. It was absolutely a painful, traumatic, life-changing event. And I had started mental health advocacy during her years of depression and continue to advocate. I loved everything that they said in the movie, and I know we'll talk more, but the big thing I want to get in now when they talk about triggers, I pulled it out of my bag while we were watching the movie because these are my grief toolkit. So when you need a moment of privacy and there's a trigger, I always have the biggest pair of darkest glasses. Could be on an airplane, a train, or anywhere, because you don't know what's going to trigger it, because there are triggers. And they did say it in the movie that grief really doesn't have a time frame on it. And I'm thrilled with the International Survivor of Suicide Day because I think other countries do a better job, since me being born and raised in America, I think other countries do a better job at acknowledging loss, regardless of what the reason of that person's death. And it's really her death and some others that preceded it and have come since by suicide has really taught me to honor them. You know, behind me, you see my buddy Elmo. So Elmo's a big part of my grief toolkit as well, because my daughter loved Elmo. Still at 15, she slept with an Elmo. She had an Elmo hat. Her inner child was very much alive, and the pressures to be a more mature adult were a lot for her. So yeah, so Elmo came with me to Survivor Day here in New York, and he helped sign in at the registration table. He's gone on walks with me, and do what you need to do to take care of yourself and protect your heart while grieving, because there's no time frame on it.
That was so beautiful, Dion. Thank you so much for such a nice introduction. And yes, I thought that's a really beautiful example of how to protect yourself in this. We'll get back to a lot of what you've already talked about, but let's jump over to Clarena. whom you will recognize from the film. Clarina is joining us from Killeen, Texas. You want to take a few minutes to introduce yourself and share a little bit about your story?
Sure. My name is Clarina, and I lost my mother. It's going to be 10 years in January. She was 38 years old when I lost her, and I was 20. So going into this, we had actually had a couple bouts with depression a couple years before she died by suicide. So, however, there was never a conversation of suicide during her depression. So it was a very big shock. So going from playing the role of daughter to mother was a very scary thing. So, but I'm definitely a survivor, and I'm very proud to be here, and I'm glad that they wanted me to be in the documentary as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And also we have Alex Gonzalez joining us from San Jose, California. Alex, if you want to take a few minutes to introduce yourself as well.
Hello, everybody. My name is Alex. I lost my younger brother to suicide 12 years ago. And I'm sure that a lot of people, the first thing that comes to their mind is they just don't believe it. With my family, it was like that. And coming from a Hispanic background, it was really hard to actually be able to talk about it. And it wasn't until I was able to come terms with my family's loss to deal with it and become a voice to help other people. I know what a lot of people that are recent survivors are going through. And although it is super hard, it does get easier. And there is a lot of people out there that will help, that could help you get past the part that a lot of people don't understand. I didn't understand it. I was so angry at my brother when it happened, and coming to terms with it, I now understand that it wasn't a selfish act on his behalf to leave. And after being an advocate and learning so much from the foundation helped me so much that it does get easier, and it does get a lot better. And it is, there's a whole family out there that has experienced what a lot of people have gone through, and we get it, and it does get better in time.
Mm-hmm.
It does.
Well, thank you so much, Alex, and thank you, Clarina and Dion. I'm so glad that you all were able to join us today to really bring some life to this conversation, and again, just provide even more stories for our viewers to connect with. I'm glad that you brought up anger, Alex, because that's something that we'll want to kind of dive into some of the emotions that are experienced immediately following loss right away. But before we do that, I just want to bring my colleague Hannah Moak over again. She's just going to help us help explain how the viewers can join the conversation, how you can comment to ask questions.
Hello again, everyone. So if you would like to ask questions during our broadcast today, you will have to be logged in to YouTube. Instructions for how to log in and also how to set up commenting are at afsp.org/Survivor Day. So if you still aren't logged in, you can definitely go and do that. Otherwise, you can just leave comments on this video, and we'll be answering them as we go. If you don't want to get involved with YouTube at all, feel free to also tweet them at us at AFSP National. We're checking that too.
Thank you, Hannah.
You're welcome.
So so we'll dive right into the emotion because again, I thought that was really nice of you to bring that up, Alex, because that was something that that we were struck by in putting together the film, and also just in speaking with new loss survivors. I think there are so many things that make this experience unique, but one is that often we're a little bit prepared to experience intense grief when losing someone that we love. But when we lose someone to suicide, there are so many other emotions that we might not be quite as prepared to have experienced. And anger is one that oftentimes does follow that, losing someone to suicide. But, that was something that you have no idea possibly that would be something that was coming up. I don't know if that's a little bit with your experience, Alex, or even if anyone else wants to jump in on that.
I feel that it is important to face, I guess with me, being angry and was a part of me, I guess, not wanting to deal with it and understand it in the beginning, where I had so many questions of everything, and it was a good, I would say a good 6 to 8 months that I was just, I didn't understand it. There was no support group or nowhere that I could turn to that I knew of at the time, because it was something that, coming from a Latin family, it's never talked about, and I think that's across the board with anybody. No one really talks about, their loved one, family or friends that took their life. And it's weird that now that I'm an advocate for suicide, a lot of people at my work always, I talk about it, very freely, very open. Yeah, I still get sad, but at the same time, I think it's important to keep it out in the open, to not have that stigma where everybody always says, and it's people always come up to me and they always whisper, they're all like, I had someone also took their life as well. And I always tell them, I go, why are you so secretive? Why? I go, don't, it's not a stigma. It's okay to talk about it. And then they'd be like, but I just can't. And that's how I was in the beginning. And it is something that, because of the foundation and all the support groups that I found afterwards, it helps so much. It's helped so much to go through that grieving process, to be able to accept now the loss of my brother. And because of that, I thank him, because now I'm a voice for people who don't have one, that I can, be the advocate. If I can save, I couldn't save my brother, but if I can save one person, that's one person, right. And I'll be happy with that. So.
Marina and Dion, I saw you both nodding along and reacting a lot to everything that Alex was saying. Dion, I'll bounce over to you, and I'm curious what some of your reactions are. What are some of the similarities and even differences in your experience?
I think in the movie, the woman, her daughter named was Aiko. I really felt her, and there was just this numbness in the part of me that was gone. And so I can't say that I personally felt angry, but because I was dealing with her peers and her friends and all the teenagers that she was tutoring and the people that she tutored at elementary school and in her high school, it was fear. I was really overwhelmingly afraid, because she had been diagnosed with depression and anxiety. And we were talking through some other possibilities of diagnoses, that another friend in her high school. So I spent a lot of time talking to them, going, I cannot possibly withstand the death of my daughter causing another death. For someone to feel like it was okay because their best friend died. So that was it. I didn't speak to a lot of people that day, but I had to speak to her school and make sure that they were going to keep those kids safe because she was like a backbone for a lot of people. She wasn't there it for herself, but so I didn't have the anger. A lot of them did. So we had lots of conversations about it. Yeah, lots of anger. So the parents that would speak to me and say, you know, so-and-so doesn't want you to know, but he's so mad at her. And I heard that a lot, and I was scared, overwhelmingly scared that one of these other teenagers that was also dealing with depression might think this was, make it okay for them. Well, she's gone and she was stronger than me. I didn't want that to be the vehicle. So it was just all about support for her peers because I was scared. I can't even find the right adjective. It's just, I can feel it in my body, in my heart right now. I was just so scared.
And like, it sounds like weighted down with like a sense of responsibility.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Because I knew how fragile they were, and I'd heard about so many of her friends through her, and some of their other symptoms and, you know, challenging behaviors that they had that may not have been direct suicide attempts, but how they placed themselves in precarious situations. So just so scared for them and didn't have access to them, you know? So I had to work through her school.
And that just even shows just like, again, just the so many different emotions that can come up, you know. So some people are experiencing anger, you're experiencing fear. Again, how it just is really showing that there's no two journeys that are exactly the same. Clarina, what about you? How is this, again, either similar or different to your journey?
Well, I have to say that for me, there were a lot of different parts of it. First off, I was the key person of taking care of everything when I lost my mom. No one came in and took over for me. No one took care of making the phone calls. No one took care of getting her to the funeral place. All these arrangements were made solely by me. So I did not have time to grieve for my mother because I had to make sure that I got my sister back in town and make sure that her dad came with and get her to the funeral place and make sure that they cleaned her up well. And, you know, all these things that had to go in place. So for me, the first few days, it was just like, get this done. Where are we going to do the wake? You know, is she going to be cremated? All these things that had to happen. So I didn't have time for fear or anger or anything. It was a shock when it happened. I cried when I went to see her, but I basically piggybacked off the fact that I was so busy to completely replace any emotion because I did not want to feel anything. So the last thing I wanted to do was be able to acknowledge the fact that this was real, that this wasn't fake. It wasn't like a dream. And then when I did move into, oh my gosh, this is happening, it hit me that much harder because I didn't acknowledge it. And so fear, pain, anger, all of those things came together and I just collapsed. Like it's just one of those things where your body just can't take anymore. And so you realize then that you have to let that pain hit you. You know, it's going to come whether you want it or not to. And if you don't let your body and your soul and everything that comes along with it experience those grieving stages, right? That it's going to be worse in the end. And that was one of the things for me. So for me in the beginning, there was just nothing. It was busy. But all of everything that we just spoke about came tumbling right down on top of my head. So.
And I mean, you know, related to that, it's like as all of those emotions start hitting you, to that point, I thought one of my favorite parts of the film is when you mentioned, Clarina, that you would sometimes just have to take a time out from feeling those emotions and just turn the pictures away. I just thought that was a really smart way of you know, self-imposing a break every once in a while. I was really glad to see you share that. And also just, it even kind of goes to what you just brought up, Dion, of like, you need to give yourself a break when you need to and put those sunglasses on. because it is going to be a process, and those emotions are going to continue to hit in waves. But you guys had already mentioned a way of kind of managing those emotions when possible. Actually, Alex, too, I wanted to come back to what you were talking about. You had mentioned a little bit of just kind of like circling around with the why this happened. And I know that's something too that we hear so often, of just kind of getting caught up in either why would this happen now, or why would this happen at all? And so sometimes I guess I'm just wondering how much that tied into your own grief process of, did you feel like that was something that helps move you forward, or sometimes it can sound like it can actually hold people back? I'm wondering kind of just how that tied into everything for you.
For me, I think it was difficult in the beginning. I mean, I think everybody, the first thing, when they hear a loved one or a friend that has taken their life, they're like shocked, like, really? Why? Because they don't get, I guess, how the other person's feeling. My brother was, I always told myself, how could it be so selfish, when it first happened, and getting to know more about the illness and how people react. And I've come to understand that at least for my brother, couldn't see a way out. And unfortunately, when he did take his life, it was a shock to our entire family. And I think that the loss that my family has experienced has brought us closer together, has united us to be more of a family and more in communication with one another, as well as our own feelings.
Right.
I think a part of me tells, it's weird to say that my brother's taking his life saved my life as well. And I think a lot of individuals out there suffer from some type of mental illness or depression, and sometimes they can't see past, tomorrow. And to me, it was always, why? How could he? Why was he so selfish? Why this? Why that? I had so many questions. I was so angry. But after a while, it's just like they get to a point where they don't see that past. That and it's not that my brother did it, to get back at my parents or one of the siblings, or he was just at this point where he could not see beyond that moment, and his decision to end his life. It's not, I don't think that he thought of it, and it was just something that happened, and our family now has to deal with. And we've moved on, and we have gotten closer because of our loss. And I think it is important that it is brought out of the darkness. The stigma of suicide, it's always when people that I know or that I meet and they eventually find out about my brother, they're always very very secretive, oh, I also had a brother, or another family member. And I always say to him, I go, why whisper? It's
right.
Not a secret. To me, talking about it is, for me, it helps. Now, I miss my brother dearly. Every day I think of him. But I know that because of what now my family has gone through, I now can be a voice, not for him, unfortunately, but I can be a voice, a small voice, but I'm a voice.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, Alex. That actually is, I just noticed that we're already getting some questions in from our viewers, and that actually might help kind of steering towards this first question we have. I'll pose it to all of you. What can you say to others who want to help after loss, but but they don't really know what to say, and they're not really sure, how to approach it? So, for anyone who does want to help, I guess, what is it, either right when you first experienced the loss, even till now, I guess, if you guys have any suggestions for others to help other loss survivors?
I'll start with self-care. I think that was crucial for me because toward what Clarena said, when she just collapsed, I was hospitalized less than 2 months after she died. So at some point in caring for everything and everyone, you lose taking care of yourself. So that would be the first thing I'd say, to give yourself permission to take care of yourself and to live life. But in terms of, it's that in the airplane when you're getting on and the stewardess or the airline steward says, if in case of an emergency, you have to put that air mask on yourself before you can help the child. So that's going to be the first thing that I would say. Take care of yourself so you can take care of others. And a big thing, if you're not comfortable with talking to people and really going out there as the 3 of us do, or 4 of us, including you, look at advocacy. There needs to be more research. There needs to be more funding. There's so much that can happen on an institutional level. And on this, it's not small, so not to minimize it, but to the conversations that both Clarena and Alex have said they've had, when you tell somebody, it gives them permission to talk about it. So even if it's on that individual basis, and even if you're just directing people to the AFSP website and the resources that are there, knowing, assuming you're in America, the helpline lives, I'm sure there are, just for America, 1-800-273-TALK. Anytime I go anywhere, I tell people to program that number. So there are really small things that people that can do, that if they don't want to do public speaking or start doing walks and fundraising, to advocate at a political level, to take care of themselves and know the number and the resources when people need help.
And it sounds like, too, even just being there for their friend or for their family member in those very basic self-care needs, too. Like you were just saying, and you as well, Clarena, that there are so many details to take care of that you're just running on autopilot. It might be really nice to have someone just kind of like, hey, have you eaten today? Can I make you dinner? To help you with those.
As an outside person, if you are a friend or a family member or just someone that is witnessing the loss happening, the biggest thing for me is acknowledge me. Acknowledge my loss. Acknowledge the fact that this person is not someone that died by suicide. It was my mother. So instead of being scared of saying her name or asking me questions or even saying a word like, I'm really sorry, it got so crazy that so many people were saying, I'm sorry. But the reality is they don't know what else to say. So just acknowledge the pain that's there. Acknowledge the fact that it's happened. And don't be scared to ask them questions. What was she like? What did she like to do? What was your favorite memory? Because all I'm thinking about right after she died is, oh my gosh, what did I just see? You know what I mean? But sometimes just being there and acknowledging it instead of turning your back. I have lost so many family members to this because they decided not to acknowledge it. And it never came back. There was never a conversation for us. So there were family members and friends that didn't approach it. And I was going through a journey and they weren't there along my side. So all I can say is just try to be there, acknowledge it as a friend, as a family member, and don't try to ignore it. Don't try to not bring up that beautiful, loved person that we lost.
And I like that you mentioned saying the name. That's really important too. So often people are just so nervous about, making your grief worse. Well, it's like there's nothing that can make the grief worse. It's, you know, you're already overwhelmed with missing that person. Hearing the name will actually be like a really beautiful reminder that they existed. Alex, I don't know if you have anything else to add for just like any advice for people who want to help other loss survivors.
No, I think it is important to be, I guess, a voice, and no, I think just know that there is help out there, and there is people that care, and it's just for those people that are struggling with some type of mental illness. It's just like, don't give up. There is help.
Yeah, thank you. We're getting another question in. So someone just wrote in the comments and asked, how do you deal with guilt in the hindsight of losing someone? I don't know if anybody wants to take that right away. Oh, yes, Dion, take it away.
My daughter, unfortunately, had several attempts before she passed. Clearly unfortunate that she made that transition. But the biggest thing for me was to acknowledge that it wasn't my fault, and to acknowledge, so what I say to that person asking the question, it's not your fault. And the hindsight, I say it to myself, and I remind myself, even as I watched the movie, I had to remind myself, because she wanted a pet. And like that, would that have made the difference? And I said, each and every last one of us, I think, did the best we could with the information we had at that time. So it's not what we know now. We did the best we could with the information we had at that time. So now that we have this lived experience, what we have learned is going to help someone else. But there's nothing we could have done different then, because we didn't know it then.
That is so true. It's just, we want to put so much responsibility on ourselves, but you're exactly right. You can't fault yourself for not knowing something before that you know now. Clarina, I saw you also wanting to say something.
Exactly. I mean, a lot of what was just said is what it is. What we had then were not the tools that we just happen to have now. And now those tools are what's going to chip away at that guilt, right? Because we have to use those to help others if that's what we chose to do with the loss of our loved one. But on top of that is, I remember the first time I laughed or had a good time after my mom's death. And it was like, oh, wow, I'm having a good time. And then instantly it was like, I should not be having a good time right now, because my mom died however many weeks ago. I should still be super upset, not want to go out, want to stay home, hide under my blanket, like all these things came to mind. But then I almost had to like tell myself, what would my mom want from me right now? She would want me to be having a good time. She would not want me to sit here and throw this huge guilt trip for myself and use it as a crutch, right? To not be on a healing journey. Am I saying it's easy? Absolutely not. You can tell yourself 550 times that it is not your fault. You had nothing to do with it. It was, it was something that happened. It's not going to be solved like that. But you have to forgive yourself and forgive that moment and move forward. You have to try, at least. That's what I did.
Yeah, and actually, I'd like to kind of seize on that and look for, how did you know when you really started healing from that? I going back to a little bit of what you brought up a few times, Alex, you talked about how talking with others is really what's kind of giving power to this. I'm wondering what else has helped you guys move. How did you know that you were starting to move forward in healing, and also, I guess, again, just even more advice that we can share for others that are watching? I don't know if anybody has anything that they'd like to jump on. Any first glimmers of how you knew you were moving forward?
I think on my end, I mean, it gets easier the pain is still always there. I don't think it'll ever go away. You just learn to, I guess, accept it and deal with it and control it where it's not an emotional, like, you know, when it first happened. Yeah, you know, I lost my brother 12 years ago, and I still cry. And, you know, not a day goes by that I don't think of him, honestly. But it does get easier with time, and being an advocate, for at least for me, helped me in my grieving process, as well as participating in all of the out of the darkness walks. To me, it's my, I call it my bi-yearly cleanse. I do both walks, one on the West Coast and East Coast. I've done them for the past 10 years, and to me, it's a day that I cry when I walk. I think of my brother. I look at everyone else that's there for the same reason, and it's such a cleanse, and it's not a sad thing for me anymore. Yeah, it is still sad, but it's more of a love sad, and it's more of an honoring of your lost one. You're there, you know. I consider myself a strong advocate, you know, for suicide. And I always, even at work, people would always tell me, and it's the stigma that surrounds suicide, that everybody always says, oh, you know, they always whisper it, or, you know, they don't talk about it openly. And to me, it's just like, why are you whispering? To me, it helps to talk about it. It does. And to me, it's in the beginning, it's sad, but it's something that unfortunately happens. And we, as the survivors, should not have, you know, to go down the same road that our loved one has, and choose that path. To me, I want to be the voice. I want to be the voice to tell people this is only temporary. It is. And it's something that I think people that struggle with it, that they need to remember that this is temporary, and there is light. So hang in there.
And I'm so glad that you brought up the Out of the Darkness walks, because towards the end of this conversation, I'll make sure to mention some of the other resources that AFSP has that you can find around our website. So I'm so glad that you brought that up. We'll mention a few more. You know, even related to that, actually, I wanted to check in with you, Clarena, because in the movie, I always say movie as if you're all movie stars now. In the film, you touched on support groups, and I wonder if maybe that was something that kind of really, you know, set you on the path to healing. If you could talk a little bit more about your involvement with that.
Actually, yeah, I was going to mention that, so thank you for asking. So when I knew that I was going to be going towards a better, you know, healing path, I would say, because I bought like 10, 15 books, and I sat there and would read them and try to find like those answers to the why that we brought up earlier. And the reality is, the answer to the why is there is no answer to the why. Even if there is a letter that's left behind, or there had been a history of mental health issues, things of that nature, is that really going to satisfy you? Is that going to be the answer to your why? No, you're still going to be in shock. You're still going to be hurting. It's still going to be painful. That why will always be up there. The answer is there is no answer. So for me, I lived in Chicago at the time, and I was like, okay, there's got to be support groups around here. I would look them up. I'd show up. No one would be there. Not even the person that was running said support group. We finally move up to Alaska, and in this little town in Fairbanks, Alaska, there happened to be this support group. And so I was like, you know, I might as well try. We're in this new place. I need to find a good way to heal. And I went, and I could tell you, the moment I walked in and I sat down, that was the moment I knew, because everyone there, every word that came out of them validated me and validated my loss and my mother. And they were talking about their own losses, but it validated me. And so when I actually mentioned, I just want to know why, everyone looked at me and was like, we know, like we know where you're at right now. And so that, and I always say, Fairbanks, Alaska, that was what saved me. That little group of like 10 of us, and the person that led the group was actually a survivor, like a lived experience survivor. And his input on what he was going through, the darkest of times, and what he was thinking when he had his first attempt, made me realize, like, I have to stop making it her fault. I have to stop thinking that this was something she decided and she was like, forget everybody else. That was not what was happening, but it took time to get to that place, But support groups for me, and it's not for everyone. I've had people that come into the support group and they come once and they realize it's not for them. I have people that come all the time. We have times where, they want more of a peer-to-peer kind of setting, and that's fine. But I think that if you try it, then you'll know whether you like it or not, or whether it's for you or not. If you don't try it, you're never really gonna know.
That's exactly it. There's that, you really don't know. I mean, first, this is a brand new experience. So it's so important. I'm just glad that you mentioned that it isn't for everyone, but it's so important to try, because if it is that thing that's going to help, I mean, it's going to be invaluable to have found that. So yeah, I'm glad that you bring that up already. You've all mentioned just getting involved with the cause, the support groups, reading, looking for every single book under the sun about this. What about, I'm wondering, was there anything else yet, Deanne, that we haven't touched on that worked a little bit for you or helped you kind of get to the point that you are at today?
I guess it was hinted at, but in terms of looking at not just the support groups, because that's, you think of group. I think in the film, someone, I think the husband said therapy. So I stayed in therapy. So there was family therapy when she was being seen. And then I had individual therapy, and I continued, I don't remember when I stopped. I continued individual therapy for quite some time after she passed. But I use the word a lot for myself and for others, but permission, but giving yourself permission to do what you're doing. I don't know if for the three of you, if it was your experience, but because in general, I'm a positive, happy-go-lucky sort of person. There was one dear friend of mine, and we were close, so she was comfortable in saying to me that I seemed like I was handling it too well, that I seemed like I was good. And I said, I'm good until I'm not. You see me in times when I'm good, and when I'm not, I'm not. I blog and I write, and recently, I have no idea what it was, but I was on an airplane, something came on, and so it just felt like I'm trapped. And the woman in the film, the anxiety attack, I remember having that, happen to me. But in this situation, I was on an airplane, I'm in the aisle seat, and I'm sitting there, and I felt like I'd been clobbered by grief. And I don't know what the trigger was, if it was a sight, a smell, a song, and I am bawling in my seat, with my glasses on, damn near hyperventilating, wondering what other people are thinking. Are they wondering if I'm afraid of flying? But coming back to permission, I stayed in therapy beyond how long I should have been in therapy, when I should have been over it. And I give myself permission to not be okay when I'm not okay. And I don't need a reason to not be okay.
Mm-hmm. Again, I think that is just, everything that you just said is so important, because it's true. I mean, grief is not a linear journey. So it's so often, I think that that's sometimes what people think, that, like you just said, there's a time period that people expect you to be in therapy, and then if for some reason you stay in longer, it's longer than you should have. I mean, giving yourself permission to do what is best for you is just so important. I'm really glad that you brought it up and phrased it that way. I'm also thinking, and something that we hear all the time is just how to get through the holidays. First of all, always, but especially related to losing someone in your family to suicide. All of a sudden next week already, we're going to be getting together with our families for Thanksgiving. And then, it's so many times when people are in families grieving at different paces or just in different ways or experiencing some of those different emotions, it can be really difficult for everybody to get together. I'm wondering if you guys have any little tidbits of advice or just, anything you'd like to share with someone who's really worried about the holidays coming up.
So for me, I know that it's not even just the holidays, but any major event in your life, like having your first child or, things of that nature. For me, the first few were, even having my son and realizing like my mom's not going to be there to tell me how to be mom, you know what I mean? And, oh, that's not how you do that, or you can do it this way, or, but holidays or her birthday and my birthday, those things were so hard to get through. But now what I've made is I've made it a part of the holiday to celebrate her life and who she was, because my children will never get to meet her, but they know her. They know about her. And we talk about it and we bring out pictures. And for her birthday, my friends and I make a cake and we take a shot for my mom because that was what we did on her birthday. We would all take shots on her birthday. And that's something that I continue. And, on my birthday, I have a little urn that I carry around with me. And we talk about her during Christmas, and I bring pictures of us when I was little, and she dressed me up in ridiculous stuff, but it was making sure that in some way, shape, or form, there's still a part of that important date for you. It will be hard, but it makes such a huge difference to, like I said, again, validate them. Validate their existence and who they were for me.
Yeah, and actually, even to that, I believe it, Dan, I believe you have something related to butterflies that you use to commemorate to remember your daughter.
Thank you.
Yeah, talk to that.
Seaway was. I write about, I call her my black butterfly. I have one tattoo and it's a butterfly and in her honor. And so for the holidays, I feel like she's always fully present. I'm okay with wearing the Elmo hat, having the Elmo doll, but around, as Clarena said, every major event, because even as I was listening to her, I remembered being on a vacation and it was my girlfriend's 50th birthday. And when her daughter got up to speak and honor her, I had to leave. Because I couldn't imagine like, oh, I'll never have that. I went to a wedding. It was like, oh, I'll never have that. So you're mourning everything you never had at all these big events, not just the holidays. And then this was a kid, because I'm not big on holidays. But oh my God, she was celebrating Grandparents' Day. She was celebrating Dog Day, Postman Day. She believed in every holiday, So it was like, so those things and just sort of honoring it for her and keeping her memory alive. And Clarena said, and talking about it, she absolutely gets a cake every year. And sometimes the family gets together. Sometimes I'll put it out for her in front of a picture that I keep around for her. At the event, sometimes we'll set a plate. Sometimes there's just a candle and the flowers in front of her pictures. And it's just like, you're here. You're here. We remember you. And yeah, the butterfly, so many butterfly stories, and I won't, belabor it, but acknowledging butterflies, wearing butterflies, you can't see them. I have to get, all the way up my little butterfly earrings that I wear. And it's what gets me through, and whatever symbolism that I can have that she is with me and she's fully present. And when I'm at an event and, when a butterfly shows up and you're like, they're kind of out of season and it's a little chilly, and it's like, I see you, it's butterflies and sometimes dragonflies, but I'm like, all right, I see you. Last year around this time, somewhere I'm in a hot yoga room. I like hot yoga. how am I in a room that's over 105 degrees and a butterfly landed on me?
Wow.
All right, okay, I get it. You know, whatever your beliefs, it gets me through to believe that she is with me and around, and it connects me to Alex and Clarena and you and other people at an event. And, you know, we see butterflies and we connect over that. And like, all right, regardless of how they died, it's something that we feel connected through our loss and our grief, that we're connected to people in a way that folks that I'm glad have not experienced the loss like this may or may not understand. But butterflies really do it for me and bring a smile on the worst of days.
That it was just beautiful. I'm so thankful for you to share that. And actually, I feel like this just completely flew by for us, but we're nearing the end of our time. So I actually just wanted to pose out to all of you just to, if there's any last thoughts or just anything else that you wanted to mention that we hadn't touched on. Let me just bounce over to you, Alex, and just see if there was any final thoughts that you wanted to share or anything that we didn't cover yet.
I think the only thing on, I guess that I guess to get out is for those that are new to losing someone, just remember that this is only temporary. The beginning, I would say the first year was pretty tough for me and my family. I immediately went into trying to get some type of answers and support group, and I was more of the advocate to get answers, to find out why. And I think it's important to understand that there is a grieving process. And for those that are new to this, don't give up, stay strong, and remember that, you know, you now have to be the voice.
Yeah, that it is a process. You're right, that it's, you know, it's not something that you can just immediately cover and move forward, that it is a process. So thank you. Clarina, did you have any last final thoughts for us?
Yeah, I just want to say again, like Alex was saying, if you are new to this, be validated. Understand that we are validating what you are feeling by being here today and speaking up about our loss. But also be gentle with yourself through the process as much as you can be, because you could be your worst enemy in these moments of time. And even after filming this, like we were talking about earlier, filming it and getting on that airplane, what you were talking about earlier, it was just like, yes, I was on that airplane with you. It had to happen because it was the same thing. It was, you know, having talked about her thousands of times at this point, it doesn't matter. There are times when you're going to talk about it and it's just going to hit you harder for some reason, that one moment in time. So validate yourself, be kind to yourself. It's just a new normal, you know, it's a new normal. Once you get over that hump, it's a new normal. That's all it is. But they are there and they'll always be there. And the way that they ended is not the way that they are in your heart. They're so much more. So acknowledge that too. So that's all I can say on my end.
That's so important. Thank you. And Dion, I'll bounce over to you too to see if you had any last final thoughts.
I think I'm just going to reaffirm the self-care, because even in the film, the woman, it was her husband, and she said it was like 5 years out before she started her healing. And while people, so take good care of themselves, give themselves, you know, give yourself permission to live, and don't feel like you have to be an advocate. So while all of us are comfortable talking and we are advocates and it's a way of life for us, that doesn't have to be it for you. I did lose another dear friend less than a year after my daughter's passing, and I have now become friends with her mom. I didn't know her mother before. She lives in another state. We've met, we're friends, and she's found her journey And at one point she said to me, like, I can't do it the way you're doing it. Like, I can do the walks, but I can't speak to people. I can't do that. And I'm like, that's okay. So as Clarena said, is being gentle with yourself. Don't judge yourself based on how we're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
This is what works for us. Whatever you're doing is okay, and within parameters, being safe for yourself. Even one person in the film said he was drinking a lot at one point, and then he moved past that. So just be really careful in your self-care, trying to be safe in your self-care, and give yourself permission to grieve in the way that you need to grieve. How we're healing as advocates might not be your way, and that's okay.
Thank you so much for saying that. And also to that point too, what helps you in the beginning may not help you, as time goes on. So also be open to continuing to explore, because this is, like Clarena said, this is your new normal. So this is something that, you as you grow and change, what helps you get through this is going to also change as well. So thank you all so much for being here. That was really such a wonderful conversation. And thank you so much to everyone who came online, who joined us to watch this. I encourage you to take a few minutes, if you can, to let us know what you thought about this program. You can find our evaluation form on our website if you go to afsp.org/Survivor Day. We'd love to have your feedback. We'd love to know how we can improve this, what we can do going forward to better support you. A reminder that if you would like to see the film again, you can watch it on afsp.org/Survivor Day Films. Starting tomorrow, we'll be moving the film there. You can also catch this conversation again. We'll provide a link to that again on our afsp.org/Survivor Day. And we'll actually be able to provide English captions for this program at that time. Also, like I said, I wanted to touch on some of the resources that are available through the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Again, resources that you can find on our website. If you go to afsp.org/suicide loss, you'll find information about our Survivor Outreach Program, which is a really wonderful program for anyone, again, who's maybe just not quite ready to attend a group event like this, or even maybe not quite ready to attend a support group. The Survivor Outreach Program would allow you to have a one-on-one conversation, or even just a phone call with a trained volunteer who's also a loss survivor. So it helps to alleviate isolation without putting the pressure on you of having to be in a full room. You'll also find, you'll have access to our nationwide support group directory. So if you are actually now considering attending a support group for suicide loss, you'll be able to just search by location. You can just put in your city and state and see what's closest to you, find a way to contact that person running the support group, and find out if you were able to attend. You'll see a list of recommended reading. Going back to what we talked about, sometimes it's just really helpful to just get your hands on as much information as possible. As well as you'll find information on our memory quilts. We have both physical quilts as well as digital memory quilt squares, where you can post a picture as well as a dedication to the person that you lost. And it's truly a beautiful, very moving webpage that we have. Again, we hope that you've enjoyed this program, and we do wish you the very best as you navigate through your own grief journey. And hope that this has helped in any way to set you on the path of healing. Know that as everyone has really mentioned already, you are part of this community here, and we do want to support you. We want to do what we can to connect you with others and feel inspired by. Let's see if you are. If you are new to this loss and you're at all dreading the holidays, just remember that often anticipation is the worst, but you'll be able to get through it. Again, refer back to our website, afsp.org/Survivor Day, to find any of those resources. And I think that is about it. Thank you so much for joining.